obviously as sparring partners now, we're back to orthodox. Finding, we did find Conor Wallace, but it wasn't an easy find to find the right person to try and imitate that style. Finding an orthodox guy with basic striking skills and strong wrestling skills is a lot easier. It's a lot more straightforward. And it's also a lot more familiar to Conor, that the guy that kind of throws the overhand right and then just will try to grind him down on the fence. We've faced that since we went into the UFC and even before then. But yeah, no, we're lucky we have Sergey, his wrestling coach for the last 7, 8 years, is almost physically a double for Eddie. About 5'7", similar weight. I would consider Sergey a much slicker wrestler, but he can mimic that grinding style of wrestling as well. So the camp has been pretty heavy wrestling orientated. Conor's striking skills are already there, so we know there's going to be a lot of clinch work in this. We know there's going to be a lot of wrestling, but there will be separations and there will be opportunities. And as we've seen many times, Conor doesn't need a whole lot of opportunities to land that clean shot. Not really. We didn't really we didn't have a huge training camp for Mendes, and I consider him almost a more difficult wrestler to deal with because he's so short. It's easier for him to get underneath Conor's shots. Eddie is, for some reason, he's on the website as being the same height as Conor, but when you put them together, they're not. I guess Conor's about 5'10", and Eddie's maybe 5'7", but there's not that much of a height difference that, Conor just bend the knees a little bit, he's going to be eye level with him. So it's a little bit easier dealing with someone close to your own height shooting in than Mendes. And then, of course, in the lead up to the Mendes fight, with the knee injury, we weren't able to do a whole lot of wrestling. And also because we were preparing for Aldo, we didn't do a whole lot of wrestling anyway. So the 1 or 2 takedowns in that fight, Conor almost kind of gave them just to secure guard, rather than fight them hard and then possibly injure his knee. So that was a strange fight. Whereas this one now, few knocks and bruises, absolutely to be expected at the end of a tough training camp, but no injuries. There's a big difference between knocks and bruises and injuries. No injuries. Any takedown Eddie gets, he's going to have to fight tooth and nail for, and even if he does get a takedown, it's going to be an exhausting process. Conor's very, very difficult to take down. And even if you do get him down, very, very difficult to hold down. And then if you are holding him down, you're going to be eating big elbows, submission attempts. He's going to be talking in your, reminding him how tiring it's getting. Yeah, he's a tough guy for anyone. I don't think so because, Nate has 1 or 2 sequences on the fence he's very good at, but you wouldn't particularly say he's a takedown specialist. So what's given me the confidence is watching him in here with, like I say, Sergey and Nikolai, Cathal Pendred, and these guys that are incredible pressure on the fence and grind you down, and the likes of Sergey, how slick he is switching from singles to doubles, taking the back, and he can really flow takedowns together. That's what's given me the confidence of hours and hours and hours of me seeing him here doing that. So I do think Eddie is a much more difficult guy than Nate to deal with on the fence in terms of how he changes takedowns together. But I've also seen Conor in here with who I would consider higher level pure wrestling. So that's what's given us the confidence, the training. Yeah, it's like the Goldilocks porridge, it's a little bit too hot, a little bit too cold, and then just right. So, as you know, his last fight before going into the UFC was at 55, and for me, that was the ideal weight. But I guess the fights that had influenced Sean Shelby's decision to reach out were the 45 fights, and Sean looks after the 45 and below division, so he nabbed him for 45, and then so we just rolled with it. But I was always in the back of my head thinking the 55 is just that last 10 pounds. I mean, Conor can pretty much diet to 55, but getting 55 to 45, that 10 pounds was mean, you look at his body and you're trying to think, where am I going to get 10 pounds of weight off here, you know, water weight, and you know, on the scales, he never missed it, always made it, but it was always a little bit of a worry trying to get there. And now with George Lockhart on board, we're aiming not to do any real bats or anything like that. Just follow this diet. It's coming down the right way. Step on the scales. He's going to be shredded, I'm sure, but not gaunt. And you know, the rehydration process will go great even now at the earlier weigh-ins and stuff. So it really is this the Goldilocks McGregor fight, like, you know. Yeah, it's incredible. Like in the days before this fight became a cert, like Conor was really on the fence about taking it or not. And we did have conversations where we were saying, let's just forget it. Let them work it out between themselves, chill till Christmas, and then you know, we'll start 2017 again. But the one thing that we kept coming back to was history. You know, there's only ever one first. And this is the UFC's first event in New York, first major MMA event in the MSG, you know, the historic MSG, like you say, all those big Showtime fights I've watched there. First main event there, first time fighting for the second belt. I mean, there's so many firsts. So even though after the Nate fight, it would have been tempting just to go to the Caribbean for a month for him, I'm sure, to get him right back in the gym that following Monday, there was only one thing that was going to do that, and that was a New York MSG event. If this had been another Vegas event, 100% this fight wouldn't have happened. But it was that extra cherry on top, making history. You know, that couple of decades time. You know, I sort of have a picture in my head of the coffee table book, and you know, you're flicking through this, and you're looking at this first Madison Square event. So if I'm being honest, I did give him a little extra shove in the back to accept the fight because of that.